Sami Al-Arian has joined me. He's director of the Centre for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University. Great to have you here just to talk about this. And I want to start with a point that Nizar's guest just brought up there. Message to the world, which he was saying that I'm against the war, against what's happening, because I'm a human. And I don't want to see humans suffering. I've heard many people make arguments for Israel, for Palestine. I've heard arguments based on religion. I've heard arguments based on the right to territory. What I find difficult to get my head around is why people don't just look at it as a human being and say, whatever your position is politically or in terms of religion, people are dying, and innocent people are dying, and I think the estimates are now more than 80,000 people. And yet a lot of people don't seem to be looking at it from that human perspective.
Exactly, and even since the ceasefire was announced back in October, almost 3 months ago, hundreds of Palestinians have already been killed also, on top of the 80,000 that were killed during the genocide for 2 years. You know, looking now here, hundreds of civil society organizations in Turkey are trying to mobilize hundreds of thousands of people today to tell the world that the genocide has not stopped, that even though there is supposed to be a ceasefire, the Palestinians have not gotten the aid they were promised. It's now winter, very, very cold, shelters have not been delivered, medical aid has not been delivered, people are suffering. And this is the message that people today are trying to tell the whole world, that you cannot turn back on Gaza. Gaza has not healed, the wound of Gaza has not healed, and therefore the whole world must come together again in order to make sure that the children of Gaza, that the people of Gaza are not left behind.
And working in news, you see that one individual death can get huge coverage and can impact communities on a large scale. But when you get so many deaths, there's always a danger that people become desensitized to individual deaths. So even now, as you said, people are dying every day pretty much in Gaza. And let's not also forget, in the occupied West Bank, I think it was more than 7,500 Palestinians were arrested, detained, without good reason. That is also something that is traumatic. It impacts upon families in a significant way. And it's so easy for that to get lost. But these are devastating events for the people who are impacted.
That's a double standard in the world that we live in. Palestinians have been dehumanized by the Zionist movement and by the Zionists worldwide, and therefore people are not looking at these as human beings suffering. They look at them as statistics, and they just keep repeating them. And we've seen even how the Zionists are trying to ban people from social media. You know, all the videos that show the true intent of what the Zionists have been trying to do, what the Israeli army was doing in Gaza for the past 2 years, which is basically a genocide where people have been targeted because they were there. They're trying to empty Gaza because they see a problem. They see existential problem. They cannot live with Palestinians. The Zionist movement, the Zionist ideology thinks that the whole of Palestine from the river to the sea must be pure Israeli, and therefore they don't look at Palestinians in the same lens, in the same way as human beings, and therefore they are expendable. And that's the real problem. That is the root of the problem. And the world needs to wake up and start addressing these roots of the problem rather than just trying to, put it under the rug.
How would you assess Turkey's involvement in, one, trying to establish peace, and two, trying to take the peace process forward? It's, President Erdogan has suggested putting Turkish troops as peacekeepers on the ground. Just talk about their involvement.
Well, Turkey has been trying to stop the war from the very beginning, and it doesn't want to do it on its own. It wants to bring as many people with it as possible. So it has joined the case, that South Africa brought in The Hague. It's trying to bring the Islamic world and also other countries in order to stop the war and restart a political process, which has been extremely difficult. Knowing that the Israelis have no intention and no interest in a two-state solution or any kind of a solution that would bring settlement to the case of the Palestinian issue. And therefore, it's been trying to bring about, with the friendship between Erdogan and the American president, trying to bring about an end to this genocide. So it's been treading this process. Now we saw last week when the foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, was in Miami and trying to negotiate the entrance of the Turkish troops into Gaza as part of the stabilization force, the international stabilization force. It has been met with a obstinance. It's been met with a rejection by the Israelis. But the Americans are trying to open, and we'll see how it happens.
Is that an objection against there being peacekeepers on the ground on an objection against them being from Turkey?
From Turkey, basically, because they think Turkey is more pro-Palestinian than they would like to see. They think Turkey has more of an independent streak, they have more of an independent mind, that there's a very powerful country, and therefore any mistake by them, they don't want free hand in Gaza, basically. So having Turks there may actually restrict them of what they want to do by targeting Palestinians, killing Palestinians, preventing aid from coming, you know, all the things that we've seen the past 2 years, that they don't want Turks to be involved. And I think Turkey is determined to be a part of that process to make sure that enough aid comes to the Palestinians and that this tragedy ends.
Sami, we'll leave it there for now. Sami Al-Arian is my guest in the studio. We'll be speaking to you again later on, multiple times, I think, during the day. But for now, thank you.